Thank you so much, sir. Sir, I would like to ask a question that ideology that Taliban has been following is Deoband. But if we look into the internal situation of India, there is also a Deoband school of thought in Islam, which is very actively working in UP. So, would you like to share the government's strategy from the internal security point of view?
Well, we have Mr. Aditya Dopatkar with us, who's been with us on Jammu Heritage Group. Very open. Listen, let's pose this question to him. Mr. Aditya, listen.
Sure, sir. Sure.
Yes.
Mr. Aditya.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Could the question be repeated again once more?
Yes. Yes, sure, sure. I was asking that the ideology that Taliban has been following is Deoband school of thought in Islam. And as we look closely into the Uttar Pradesh or the internal situation of India, there is a school of thought called Deoband Darul
Yes.
Uloom
Yes.
Deoband,
Yes.
which is very actively working in Uttar Pradesh and other parts of country and inside Jammu and Kashmir also.
Yes.
So India being a religiously diverse country, is it good for our internal security that such organizations are working, and what is our government's strategy in dealing with these organizations?
So I can only answer this way. What the government should do and what the government is doing is eventually what the government should themselves answer. I can only comment on what should have been done and what should be done. Okay, the acceptance of Deobandi school has got nothing to do with pluralistic democracy. The problem is there is a problem fundamentally with the ideology which is Islam itself. There is no problem with someone born as a Muslim because Muslims are born as innocent as you and me. It is the ideological treatment given to them which becomes a problem. So Deobandi is merely one higher, more astute edition of what Islam is supposed to be. See, the problem is there is something called deception, and that is called al-taqiyya in the fiqh or the jurisdiction followed by Shiite Muslims, and there is a different fiqh where it's worded differently. So someone who appears liberal may not be truly liberal. The one who is a liberal or moderate sounding Muslim is actually practicing deception to keep us gullible and to keep our awareness down. So, so we have to understand we are not dealing with Muslims, we are dealing with an ideology called Islam, and that is the software. The hardware that comes out could have less cutter and more cutter editions. You could have someone who's poetic about it like Allama Iqbal. And I don't think you have to blame an individual Muslim because an individual Muslim is not going to be at fault for being born in a particular family. That is not in his or her control. Okay, I'm talking of dealing with the software. The software that is there has to be recognized. See, we have been under attack for 1300 plus years. And whether it was the first attack under bin Qasim, or whether it is this Gupkari alliance which is happening now, we have to understand that that same software is at work through different agencies, through different time periods, through different time zones, and in different formats, sometimes through a democratic setup, sometimes through an anti-democratic setup, sometimes through a constitutional protocol, sometimes without a constitutional protocol, sometimes against a constitutional protocol. So when they are against us, they don't resort to any one idea. What we are trying to do is we are trying to be unkind to kind people. I mean, we are trying to be kind to unkind people. We are trying to be just with unjust people. We are trying to be parliamentary with unparliamentary ideologies. We are trying to be constitutional with anti-constitutional ideologies. Nobody is against the constitution per se. We all need a rule book. As an institution, the constitution is definitely important. But the constitution in its current format seems to be a job where most of it is imported from that British Act of pre-independence time. It seems to have been modified very little. The contents of the Constitution of India make the Indian state actually anti-Hindu. It is not just anti-Hindu, it is also anti-North India. It is anti-Uppar Jati. It is designed that way. It is a case where the Hindu taxpayer, who's the majority amongst taxpayers, is paying for minority schemes. Mr. Modi is doing that. Mr. Modi is doing that. So problem is we do not have the constitutional way of dealing with this ideology. Deobandi is just one addition out of it. If we try to identify Deobandi as the problem, we are again making a mistake. We have not agreed as an Indian state on paper that the genocide of Kashmiri Pandits happened for religious reasons. We still don't want to accept it. The reason they don't want Jammu to come up is because Jammu is the majority Hindu demography which has kept Jammu Kashmir with India. It is not the army which has kept Kashmir into India. It is the presence of the Jammuite Hindus by majority in their demography. And demography is destiny. We do not produce as many children. We do not have a high total fertility rate, TFR, that the other communities have. So we are going to be swarmed away. The only state in India which was compensating for the lack of sufficient TFR or total fertility rate in the rest of the country was Uttar Pradesh. And they are very magnanimously and unknowingly bringing in the population control bill. So we are actually putting in constitutional methods to harm our own future. It is now or never for Jammu. It is now or never. The problem, see, do not have a short-term memory. There were people from Jammu who have been killed as martyrs in the armed forces or as victims of terrorism. Yes, but how can you forget the Jammuites who were the Mirpuris who were killed only in 1947, which is only 75 or so years ago. So they are active through various methods. We cannot just recognize Devbandi as the problem. The problem is them, and the only way we have to deal with this is to bring in constitutional changes where we remain in power. Jammu has to remain in power not just for the sake of Jammu. It has to remain in power because it is the last citadel of Hindu demography left in that part of the Himalayas. If they don't assert themselves now, because if it would have been the time of when wars used to take place, kingdoms would be launched, DOGRAS would not have suffered. You are suffering because of the constitutional protocol. You are suffering because you are following the constitution, and we have to follow protocols. We can't help it. We need to have a revamp of the Indian state itself in terms of changes, in terms of amendments to the constitution where we ourselves get empowered. See, we are not asserting our own majority over here. We are in a majority in other places. See, if there were going to be Kashmiri Pandits thrown out in one place, how are we accepting that the majority who are Muslims in, or 40% Muslims in the armed forces, 40% Muslims in the police force, they would have caused mayhem? What about the remaining 60%? If they can cause mayhem, we never caused mayhem. We never cause mayhem. Those people are ready to pelt stones. We never do it. We follow constitutional protocols. They follow non-constitutional protocols. What was constitutional about the direct action rights? What is constitutional about the bashing up of BJP people and non-BJP people who are Hindus in West Bengal today in the post-poll violence of West Bengal of May 2021? What is constitutional about it? And we want to have a constitutional answer to what is non-constitutional. Ghazwa-e-Hind is coming onto our country, and one of its editions is the Gupkari Alliance. One of its editions is a Gupkari Alliance. For you Jammuites, I'm saying it is now or never. If you don't come together, I mean, I see there are so many fronts. There is somebody who's an NGO, there is Ikjut Jammu. You form your own combination and you form your own alliance. I happen to be an insider to Bharat, but I'm an outsider to J&K. My voting doesn't count over there. You have to come together. If you don't come together now, your future generations will curse you for sure. You will be evicted in another 30 years. And what is happening there in Jammu is going to happen to my Maharashtra. What is happening in Jammu is going to happen to Assam. It is going to happen in West Bengal. It's going to happen in Tamil Nadu. You have a constitutional method still left where you can come together. If you don't follow the last option right now, put up your pressure. And there could be small nuances about what should be the right for a big Doda, a big Kishtwar, a big place. So what should be the distribution of seats for them? How much is topographically reachable? Who finds it easy to reach the polling booth because of distance, topography, season, etc. Those considerations are certainly there. Have not the Kashmiri Valley people enjoyed this? And I think something is happening with the POJK assembly constituencies are not being filled up. And at the expense of Jammu, they shouldn't be filled up. They should be a constituency by themselves, not within Jammu and out of the seats allocated for current Jammu. It should be other than Jammu. It should be other than Jammu. And unless you assert, and then if you're going to talk of statehood, whether or not we lose Kashmir after Jammu becomes a state, I mean, historically, you have been one with Himachal. Himachal provides you with all the support that you need. They are outside 370 purview. They were outside. but they have their own equivalent law. It's see, if there was to be a Jammu statehood and there was a 370 which dealt with who can buy land from outside Jammu, with Jammu being a Hindu demography majority, there was no problem with 370 at all. The 370 was not for protecting the rights of Jammu. It was for furthering the rights of the majority in the valley. We all from the rest of the country know that. You have to understand at this time of delimitation, the combination of Amit Shah and Narendra Modi uses advice from people whose advice is not necessary. वो advice उनकी सलाह आपको पोषक नहीं है. जब 2011 का सेंसस आप फ्रॉड मानते हैं तो 2011 के सेंसस के अनुसार अगर डिलिमिटेशन होने वाला है और इसमें आपका नुकसान होने वाला है तो केवल वो प्रोसीजर है, केवल वो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है करके आप अगर चुप रहेंगे तो आपके हाथ से कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनली चुप रहने के कारण सब निकल गया. आप बताइए, जब दंगे फसाद हो रहे थे, मेरे एंसेस्टर्स जो महाराष्ट्र के हैं, उस समय हम मेजॉरिटी थे, अभी भी हैं. उस समय हमारे एंसेस्टर्स ने, मेरी बात नहीं, मेरे जन्म के बहुत पहले की बात है, मेरे एंसेस्टर्स ने अगर उस समय की मुस्लिम माइनॉरिटी ऑफ महाराष्ट्र को बुरी भांति पीटा होता तो उसके इफेक्ट होते ना, पार्टीशन नहीं ना होती. हम हमारी मेजॉरिटी असर्ट करते ही नहीं. हम हमारी मेजॉरिटी असर्ट करते नहीं. एंटी कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल तरीके से दबाव बनाकर अगर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल कुछ बात प्राप्त की जाती है तो व्हाट स्टॉप्स योर वॉरियर्स फ्रॉम कमिंग फॉरवर्ड? व्हाट साउंड्स अनकॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल फर्स्ट बिकम्स कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल आफ्टर यू अचीव विक्ट्री. What happened to the warrior status? You have more people in the military than in my Maharashtra groups. We do not have this wealth of so many ex-military men. And you do not know the tendency of leftism in the rest of the country. They are capturing state after state. State after state. The leftism is in power in many states in an inconspicuous manner. They control our academics. They control what gets printed in the newspapers. All the fence-sitting people with a short memory are the ones who are influenced by their WhatsApp chats. They are influenced by that.
Please conclude. Please conclude.
Yes. So I feel you should assert yourself. And since this session was related to Afghanistan, I can only say that our only hope is strengthening ourselves in Tajikistan and Shabahar.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Please like and subscribe.